Good morning, my dear students. I hope you all are keeping safe and healthy. My name is Abha, and I'm here today to read a story to you all, which is called A Face in the Dark. It is written by Ruskin Bond, and it is published in the book When the Night Falls. And this book is actually a very good read because it is a collection of all the spooky stories. So if you are very keen of all horror and thriller kind of stories, then this book is actually for you. So let's start the story. It may give you some idea of rural humor if I begin this tale with an anecdote that concerns me. I was walking alone through a village at night when I met an old man, and he was carrying a lantern. I found, to my surprise, that the man was blind. "Old man," I asked, "if you cannot see, why do you carry a lamp?" "I carry this so that fools do not stumble against me in the dark," he replied. This incident has a slight connection with the story that follows, but I think that it provides the right sort of tone and setting. Mr. Oliver, an Anglo-Indian teacher, was returning to his school late one night on the outskirts of the hill station of Shimla. The school was conducted on English public school lines, and the boys, most of them were from well-to-do Indian families. They wore blazers, caps and ties. Life magazine, in a feature of India, had once called it the Eton of the East. Individuality was not encouraged. They were all destined to become leaders of men. Mr. Oliver had been teaching in the school for several years. Sometimes it seemed like an eternity, for one day followed another with the same monotonous routine. The Shimla Bazaar, with its cinemas and restaurants, was about 2 miles from the school, and Mr. Oliver, a bachelor, usually strolled into the town in the evening, returning after dark, when he would take a shortcut through the pine forest. When there was a strong wind, the pine trees made a sad, airy sound that kept most of the people to the main road. But Mr. Oliver, he was not a nervous or an imaginative man. He carried a torch, and on the night I write of its pale gleam, the batteries were running down and moved fitfully over the narrow forest path, where its flickering light fell on a figure of a boy. This boy was sitting alone on a rock. Mr. Oliver stopped. Boys were not supposed to be out after 7 p.m. and, well, it was now past 9. "What are you doing here, boy?" asked Mr. Oliver, moving closer so he could recognize the boy. But even as he approached the boy, Mr. Oliver sensed that something was wrong. The boy appeared to be crying. His head hung down. He held his face in his hands, and his body shook continuously. It was a strange, soundless weeping, and Mr. Oliver felt uneasy. Well, what's the matter?" he asked, his anger giving way to concern. "What are you crying for?" The boy would not answer or look up. His body continued to be raked with silent sobbing. "Come on, boy, you shouldn't be out here at this hour. Tell me the trouble, look up." The boy looked up. He took his hands from his face and looked up at the teacher. The light from Mr. Oliver's torch fell on the boy's face, and if it could be called a face, he had no eyes, no ears, no nose, no mouth. It was just a round, smooth head with a school cap on top of it. And that's where the story should end. As indeed it has for several people who have had the similar experience and dropped dead of heart attacks. But for Mr. Oliver, it did not end here. The torch fell from his trembling hand. He turned and scrambled down the path, running blindly through the trees and calling for help. He was still running blindly through the trees and calling for help. He was running towards the school building when he saw a lantern swinging in the middle of the path. Mr. Oliver, he had never been so pleased to see a night watchman. He stumbled up to the watchman, gasping for breath and speaking. "What is it, sir?" asked the watchman. "Has there been an accident? Why are you running?" I saw something horrible. A boy weeping in the forest. He had no face." "No face, sir? No eyes, no nose, no mouth, nothing." "Do you mean like this, sir?" asked the watchman, and he raised the lamp on his own face. The watchman had no eyes, no ears, no features, nothing, not even an eyebrow. The wind blew the lamp out, and Mr. Oliver had his heart attack. So, my dear students, with this we end the story of Mr. Oliver and his surprising horror incident. I hope you enjoyed listening to the story, and if you want to read more such stories, you can please go visit and search for the book which is called When the Night Falls, written by Ruskin Bond. Thank you so much.